Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler, and I am the host and the founder of the Order of Man podcast and movement. I just got back from a hunt that was relatively successful, not as successful as I would have liked, but I did enjoy the time hunting. I enjoyed the time being with some of my friends and learning a new applicable skill that helps me become a better provider for my family and friends. And I appreciate you guys holding the fort down while I was away. We had a lot of good podcasts lined up. Of course, Kip, my co-host with our Ask Me Anything, filled in solo the other day. You guys heard him do that. Appreciate him taking the lead on that and you guys tuning in. Now, if you are new to the podcast, this is a podcast designed to give you the tools and resources and conversations and equipment that you need to thrive as a man, as a father, a husband, a leader within your community, a business owner. However you're showing up, I want to give you everything that you need to thrive in those areas of your life. And today I think I'm talking with you about a very, very important subject, focus, because we are on the heels, the back of the elections, the presidential elections in the United States. And at this point, it's likely that we should know, but based on when I'm recording this, which is Monday of this week, so the voting for the majority of the country will happen tomorrow, Tuesday. So we should know, but based on what we've been seeing in the news and everything else and the political climate, it might take a little while. So my prediction is that Donald Trump will win, but I guess by the time you're listening to this, we'll figure out whether or not that's accurate or not. But either way, regardless of who wins, I think there's going to be a lot of craziness, a lot of wildness, maybe some looting and rioting and quote unquote peaceful protests. There's going to be a lot of confusion. There's going to be a lot of frustration. It's just going to be a very interesting time. And a lot of that is going to be played upon by the media and social media and everywhere else you turn your potential eyeballs and attention. And that's what this podcast is about right now. It's about focusing, because we live in an environment where everybody's clamoring for your time. Everybody's clamoring, if I can say that, for your attention. They want your eyeballs. They want your attention. They want your money. And so they'll do and they'll say anything. They'll perpetuate stories that aren't true. They'll spread false narratives. They'll lie. They'll cheat. They'll steal. Whatever they need to do in order for you to pay attention to them, because their pocketbooks are lined when your eyeballs are on them. And let's be frank. This podcast, for some of you, could also potentially be a distraction from what you ought to be doing right now. Now, if you're running or working out, got it. If you're on the road and you're listening, got it, no problem. But, I see this a lot in the quote-unquote self-development space. I'll see a lot of people who will think that, reading a book is actually moving the needle. Reading is important. I read a lot of books, as you can tell. Behind me, I've got some of my book collection in my bookshelf there. So it is important, but I think we ought to be careful of believing that just because we read a bunch of books that we're actually doing something about it. And you're not. You're kind of warming up, but you're not actually in the game yet. So you've got to get in the game. And sometimes that requires you putting down the book. Sometimes that requires you, as much as it pains me to admit and suggest, that you got to take the earbuds out and stop listening to the podcast and start applying some of this stuff in your life, because I know there's a lot of you, based on the responses that I receive, who aren't applying it for whatever reason, for one reason or the other. And you might feel really good about listening to this podcast or reading a book or buying that course or going to that conference or whatever it is you're doing to improve yourself, but it might be a distraction from you actually doing the work. So when you combine the fact that everybody is trying to get your attention, and we have become this immediate gratification society, like we want it absolutely everything that we can possibly have, and we want it all right now, which is nice. If I want to order a new shirt or a new hat or a new piece of hunting equipment, I can jump on Amazon and I can order it. And although over the past several months it's taken me a little longer than in previous months, I can still have it within 2, 3, 4 days. I mean, how nice is that? We've been conditioned to get everything now, to lose a lot of our ability to just focus and be present in the moment. As I said earlier, I was hunting earlier in the week and the end of last week, and we sit in tree stands for the majority of the time. And I think I calculated that it was somewhere around 25 hours in a tree stand, which shouldn't be difficult, but it is. It's really, really hard to sit there for 3 or 4 hours and just sit and watch. Now, if you've got action, that's one thing, but if not, you're just sitting and you're watching and you're thinking and you're being still and you're being silent. It's a great practice, and it's very, very difficult because we've lost the inability to focus because we always need to be entertained. So I know that's a long warm-up. I'm probably 5 or 8 minutes into this thing at this point, but it's a warm-up to what I wanted to talk with you about today, which is that focus wins. And it's very important, especially in the political landscape and climate that we're in, especially where all these entertainment industries and media and sports and everything else is clamoring for our attention, just like, frankly, this podcast is, that we learn how to focus on what's important so we can get the meaningful work done, and then we can move the needle and accomplish what we want to accomplish in our lives for ourselves and the people that we have a responsibility and obligation for. My family, my friends, my neighbors, and everybody else that I'm trying to serve. You guys, same goes for you. You're trying to serve yourself and other people as well. At least I hope that's the case. So I've got 5 points here I wanted to break down that I think are going to help you focus a little bit better, not more better, just better, and get on the path to focusing so you can produce the results that you're after. So number 1 is you've got to identify and find what it is you value. If you have no idea about what you value, then how can you focus on that thing? And if you have no North Star, no compass guiding and informing or you basing your decisions off of, how are you going to know that what you're doing is either distracting and actually detracting from what you want to accomplish or moving you closer towards your goals and objectives? You don't know. So the first step in being able to focus more adequately is knowing what it is that you value and knowing exactly what you want to accomplish. I'm not going to drone on about this in this podcast today because if you are interested and you don't know how to do this, then I would suggest that you sign up for our free course. It's called the 30 Days to Battle Ready program. And if you go to orderofman.com/battle ready, you can sign up for free. Now, I know I just told you that potentially signing up for courses might be a distraction, and it might. It might if you already know what you need to be doing and you're using that as an excuse not to go out and do what you know you should be doing. But if you don't know what you should be doing, then the course is designed as an interactive program that isn't you just reading a bunch of information, but actually applying this stuff, writing it down, and then implementing action steps throughout the 30 days so that you can accomplish more over a 90-day window. I mean, let's close out this year, which is just an insane year, but let's close out this year with a bang. And if you need to figure out what you value and what's important and what you should be working towards so you can use that as a litmus test for everything else that you're doing, then do the Battle Ready program. orderofman.com/battle ready. It's free. It's an email course. It's going to take you, I would say, 10 to 20 minutes per day, and then you just get after it. So check it out, okay? But number 1, again, find what you value. Very, very important, because if you don't know how to measure anything else against it. All right, number 2, I want to change these around a little bit. Here's a good question. So I just posed this as a question for point number 2, is asking yourself constantly and continually is whether or not what you're doing is serving you or if it's hindering you, right? So step 1 is finding what you value and coming up with your goals and objectives. Then step number 2 is asking yourself, when it comes to focus, is what I'm doing right now, this very minute, listening to this podcast or working out or training or on a run or on a drive or whatever it is you're doing, is what you're doing right now serving you? Is it moving you closer to your goals and objectives, or is it moving you further away from those goals and objectives? That's a very simple yet powerful question that you can use to analyze what you're doing in any given moment. So for example, right now, I took some notes prior to hitting record on this podcast because I wanted to be prepared. And now I'm recording. And then when I get done with this, I'll upload it. And I've got Cody Lanham, who's our podcast editor, who will then edit it. But I know that this is a system that we've created, and everything that I do in this system is serving me and my goals in some capacity. My goals to reach more men, my goals to grow this platform, to grow this movement internationally, and to continue down the path of what we're doing here in this movement. When I get done, I'll probably spend some time with my kids. Like I said, I've been hunting and I've been away for the past week or so. So I'm going to spend the afternoon with my wife and my children. And although that might not move me towards my work and career aspirations with this movement, I have other goals. I have goals for being a great father and being present with my kids and being present and there for my wife. And that's what I'm going to do. And I know that when I'm spending time with them, it will move me closer to my goals and objectives with those important relationships. Another example, earlier this morning, we filled some store orders. So we've got merchandise and stuff, including this new hat, by the way. So we've got new merchandise and in our store. And my son and I fulfilled the orders. We didn't have very many today, so we got them cranked out and filled them. And I ran to the post office, and then I had to run some other errands. And, normally I would just go out and run those things, and I would be quick and get it taken care of. Well, since I've been gone, I decided to take my son along on the errands with me. So kill two birds with one stone. Because if I'm just running errands, it might not actually move me closer towards my objectives. It might be a detraction from it. But by having him there, well, there you go. I get to build and solidify the relationship I have with my son. So we call it task stacking, right? You can stack some of these tasks up together to turn insignificant things that do need to get done but aren't really moving the needle in the right direction. You can stack those with things that are, so that you can actually make that a meaningful event, because you want to maximize your time. And guys, time is really the only thing that makes us all equal. I know equality is a big thing in pop culture today. Let's make everybody equal. Let's make us all equal. Well, it's never going to happen, because no two people are equal. We're not the same. We have different skills and different experiences and different cultures and different backgrounds and different beliefs, and we sabotage ourselves and we do things that move us in the right direction, but none of us are equal. Of worth? Sure. Yeah. Of human potential? Yes, absolutely. But equal as it comes to performance or the way that we show up? No, it's just not true. But time is the factor that is equal for everybody. Now, some people know how to leverage that time effectively, but we still only have the same 24 hours in a day. It's no different for you, and it's no different for me. The men who are the most successful in their lives are the ones who have learned to manage that time well. So your goal is to maximize time. And how much time do we waste dinking around on Netflix, watching the latest series of who knows what, playing on our phone? You get that alert and tells you you're 25% up this week on your phone use. Okay, that's not actually moving the needle in the right direction, because odds are you're probably on Facebook or the Instagram and you're dinking around and waste a bunch of time, and it's not serving you. So to reiterate, point number 2 is asking yourself, in all actions and in all ways and even thoughts, is this serving me? Is this helping me get to where I want to go? Which leads you back to point number 1. What is your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, and desires? All right, number 3, you guys, you've got to plan out every single day. You have to plan out your day. I cannot even begin to describe and tell you the amount of men, the percentage of men who do no planning whatsoever for their day. I mean, they might have a calendar and they know generally what needs to get done or what tasks or projects they're working on at work. But outside of that, no planning whatsoever. And I know for me, some of the least successful times in my life was when I was just kind of coasting, just going with wherever work told me to go and whatever my wife told me to do. And I just felt like I was grinding, right? You're busy. I mean, how many of you have got home from work and thought to yourself, man, I'm just so busy today, but I don't feel like I got anything done? That's an indicator that you're not doing any planning, that you're just a cog in the wheel. And in many ways, you've made yourself that cog in the wheel. You're just grinding and grinding and grinding and not getting anywhere. Okay, because you're not deliberate. You're not intentional. You're not mapping out your day. You're not planning what needs to get done. You're not building in buffers so that you can focus on other more meaningful work. I mean, that's what I started to do in my financial planning practice. I would just grind and grind and grind and grind and wonder why I couldn't get ahead. And it wasn't until I learned to carve out time every single day to plan what I was going to be doing, when I was going to be doing it, how I was going to move myself, what I was going to do with buffers if I had a no-show or a client who didn't show up. What was I going to do in that time? How was I going to improve myself? And by going through that process, I was able to get out of that rat race of just on the wheel, just spinning, but not getting anywhere. And I know so many of you feel that way, and it's because you're not planning out your day. I've got my battle planner. I have this right here. I've got this notepad sitting right here that I take notes on, and I've got notepads on my phone. I'm constantly taking notes and journaling and documenting and just processing all of this information, but I've got time designated to do this. So when do I do it? Well, I do it every morning when I come into the office. In fact, I wrote down, because I'm going to be gone next week as well, I wrote down what podcasts need to be done, and I've got 6 podcasts. This is the second of 6, and I've got to get that done in the next 3 days. And because I've got to get that done in the next 3 days and I've documented it all and I know and I've planned it out, there's not as much stress. I can get these done. I know what days I'm going to do 2 today, 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday. That's when I'm recording this podcast. And then Thursday, I'm good. I'm ready to go. Okay, so you've got to plan this stuff out, guys. If you want to look at the battle planner, look at the battle planner. If you just want to get a blank notepad like I have right here and just take notes, then do that. But get it out of your head, get it onto paper, document it, put it in your calendar. I don't care, whatever. But use something to plan out your day. And secondary to that, so I guess this would be point 3B maybe instead of 3A, is end your day. Like, how are you ending your day? Are you recapping? Are you going through and looking what you accomplished and looking what wasn't accomplished? Are you rolling over your tasks from one day to the next? Because if you're not doing that, you're not being efficient. You're not maximizing your time. You're wasting your time. And you might feel like, oh, I got a lot done. But imagine what you could get done if you planned it out, you had a schedule, and you were relentless in pursuing that schedule on your own terms. How much more effective and productive could you be with the limited hours that we have? This is what it takes to focus. And yeah, you won't have so much time to act because you're taking some of the time away from action to plan. But I'll tell you what, the remaining time that you do have to act is going to be that much more effective because it's like, it's a sniper, right? Instead of a shotgun blast and you hope you hit something, it's like, it's sniper-like. This is what I need to get done. This is what I need to accomplish. And then you focus all of your attention and energy on that task at hand. And you're so much more effective than just the scattergun approach, hoping that something sticks and lands and works out. Sniper-like. Focus on your priorities, on what's important, plan out the day, and act. All right, the next point, guys, that I want to make, and this is very important, is you've got to have a ruthless adherence to your plan and your calendar. And initially, you're going to have to probably risk being maybe perceived as a bit of a jerk. I'm not telling you to be a jerk. I'm just saying that you might be perceived this way because people aren't going to initially understand why you're all of a sudden starting to stick to a plan. So now when people call me, I should say it this way. Before, when people would reach out or call me or email me or text and say, hey, I need your time or attention or energy, I would say, good, let's do it right now. And then I would give away any momentum that I had throughout my day on the actions that were important to me. I'd give them to other people, and I would make their problems my priorities. And I've changed that. If someone wants to reach out, I'm happy to help in whatever way that I can, as long as it's within the confines of the boundaries that I've established based on what I'm sharing with you regarding focus. But it's on my time. So if you want coaching, or you need to ask a question, or you need a half an hour of my time, or whatever it may be, it's going to be on my time. I can't make your problems my priority. Now, I will get to it as quickly as I possibly can, but I'm not going to shift my schedule around endlessly in order to appease or make things work for you. I just can't do that. And yeah, that comes with being busier and being more productive, but as soon as you start to learn some of these skills and you become ruthlessly committed to adhering to your schedule and adhering to your calendar and adhering to your own goals and ambitions and not letting people derail you or get you off track or help you lose your focus, the sooner you're going to start realizing some of the success that you guys have been talking about wanting to accomplish now for years and years and potentially even decades. It's because you're letting other people dictate the way that you're going to spend your time and attention and energy. Now, granted, if my wife called me up and said, hey, you know, we've got a problem with one of the kids and your son broke his leg, okay, I got to shift some things around, right? Because that's a priority. But there's other situations and circumstances where I might tell my wife, you know, I can't go run that errand today because I have this agenda and this plan. If you want that done, you're either going to have to do that yourself, or I can do it this evening or tomorrow at 2 or whatever. But I'm not going to drop everything for any little possible thing that might come up because I'm focused. This is what I'm on right now. I'm doing my podcast right now, or I'm responding to emails, or I'm writing a portion of a book or whatever. And so I can't not focus on that right now, but I will come to it, but it's going to be on my time, not necessarily on yours. All right, that's number 4. Ruthless adherence to your calendar, to your planning, to your goals and ambitions. Number 5, last point here, guys. you've got to evaluate this stuff. You've got to evaluate. So when I was in the military, I was in an artillery unit. And what we would do is we would get enemy positions or reports from forward observers. These are guys who are observing enemy positions. And they would call that into us, and then we'd take that information and we'd disseminate that information down to the guns, and they would fire, and then those forward observers would tell us the effects. It worked or it didn't work. And then based on that, then we would disseminate new information, if needed, to the guns, and they would repeat the process. So the forward observers were very important because they're the ones who are giving us the initial intel on what these enemy positions are, so we could make a correct assessment, and we could fire or not, or what charges we use and everything else. They would also let us know if we were effective. And without those forward observers, we could shoot and fire all day long. But without those forward observers, we have no idea whether or not we're being effective. So this is what men do in their lives. They act. Just like I said earlier, I was so busy today. I was so busy. Oh, it was a good day. I was busy. Well, busy doesn't mean productive. Busy doesn't mean effective. Busy doesn't mean that you're moving the needle or you're accomplishing your goals. It just means you were doing a lot of stuff. So I don't know about you, but I have no interest or desire in simply being busy. Now, I like being busy with productive work, but that's not about busyness. That's about productivity. I'd rather be efficient. I'd rather be effective. And in order to know if what I'm doing is working, I've got to evaluate. I've got to have those forward observers who are reporting and saying, yes, this worked, or no, that didn't work. So you need to adjust fire. And we did a podcast probably years ago at this point on adjusting fire and why that's so important. But guys, if you aren't going back, again, this goes back to my previous point, at the end of every day, at the end of every 90-day battle planning cycle, and looking at what you accomplished and looking what didn't get done, if you're not evaluating that stuff, what a shame. Because you actually might find out that what you're doing is working really well. Good, you want to know that because you need to replicate that process. And you're also going to find out what doesn't work so well so you can scrap that, incorporate new ideas and new information and new ways of doing things, new procedures and things like that, so that you can be more effective the next go around. But again, you can't do this if you don't have this ending process of every day. You can't do this if you don't know what you value, what's important to you. You can't do it if you're not asking yourself whether or not things are serving you throughout the day. These steps are very important, but at the end, you've got to evaluate it. Did this work? The next question, why or why not? The next question, what will I do now? Simple. Did this work? Why or why not? What will I do now? There's 3 questions that you can ask after every conversation, every podcast, every book that you read, every conversation that you have with your wife, every task that you tackle at work, and in every circumstance and situation. Did this work? Or what did I get accomplished? Why or why not? And what's my next move? Very simple, guys. So there's a 5-step framework for maintaining focus. When everybody wants your attention, your wife, your kids, me, the media, politicians, entertainers, athletes, everybody wants your attention. And look, I'm not one of those guys who says, well, you should never watch sports or you should never play video games. I have no problem with that. It's all taken in stride, and as long as you're accomplishing what you're accomplishing. But you've got to ask yourself whether or not it's moving the needle. It's not up to me. It's up to you. So I'm not telling you not to do those things. I'm asking if you're looking at it objectively and asking whether or not it's serving you. And if it is, great. If it isn't, consider doing something different. Consider using that time more effectively. Excuse me. So let me recap these. We'll call it a day. Get to your weekend. By the way, as we're coming into the weekend, this is a perfect time to start mapping this stuff out. So come Monday, you hit the ground running. All right, here we go. Number 1, find out what you value and what's important to you and what your objectives are. If you don't know how to do that, go to orderofman.com/battle-ready. Number 2, ask yourself in all activities and all encounters and everything that you're doing throughout the day, does this serve me? Is this helping me or is this hindering me? Then act accordingly. Number 3, plan out your day and put a cap on the end of your day. So you know what you want to accomplish, you know what you got accomplished, and then you can roll over the remainder for the next day. Number 4, ruthless adherence to the calendar and systems and processes that you have in place. Do not allow other people's priorities to become your problems. Sometimes other people's priorities are your problems. For example, the health and safety and well-being of my wife and children is a priority of mine. But somebody who needs to have a question answered in an email, although I would like to get back to it, and I likely will, that's not a priority of mine. So we have to prioritize those things, and we don't necessarily make those priorities of other people our immediate issues. So be wary of that. And then the fifth component, evaluate, just like those forward observers I talked about. By the way, the forward observers are your evaluation process. I use an after-action review. I gave you the 3 questions that I would suggest you use. What did you get done? Why or why not? What's your path moving forward? All right, guys. On the heels and the back of the U.S. elections and the chaos and pandemonium that I'm sure is in the midst of ensuing as we speak, I want you to keep your eye on the prize. I want you to stay focused. I want you to stay motivated. I want you to focus on the things that you can control, not the things that are outside of your control. And I want you to accomplish all that you want to accomplish in your marriage, your relationship with your kids, your friends, your families, your colleagues, your coworkers, your health, your wellness, your bank account, your business, everything. I want you to achieve on all levels. And this is a very simple framework for making all of that a reality. All right, guys, get out there, get to work. We'll be back next week. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.